Okay, Shalom Aleichem, everybody. I want to tell you that Rabbi Ashkenazi in his Sefer on davening, a wonderful Sefer, he's medayik, that in Alter Rebbe Siddur, it says, we don't have it, I don't know why in our Siddur, it's different words. It says before Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin, it says, Minig laneach tefillin Rabbeinu Tam achrat tefillah, and you say Krishma, and some say Kaddish v'hoyek v'yachad. But he says in Alter Rebbe Siddur, it actually says two more words. V'lil moed behem k'tzas, three more words. I'm alternating. V'lil moed behem k'tzas, and you should learn in your Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin. So he in his Sefer says, it must be that all the shiurim, you should, instead of doing you'll stop now. Instead of doing a Rashi's, you're doing Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin. So I'm wearing my Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin, and I just want to make sure that before everybody zips out, we'll learn a short halacha relevant to our times. Yesterday we read Parshas Masai, and this season, the summer season, when everybody's doing trips, now we're getting closer to the 9 days. Bring this upstairs. We're getting closer to the 9 days, so we're going to slow down with the trips. But in the summer, in general, people are traveling. So let's talk about Masai. Let's talk about some things you have to know about halachically about traveling. I saw in Svarim that the word Masai is 4 letters: Mem, Samach, Ayin, Yud. Those are 4 things that people have to be very careful when they travel, because tendency says you're a little more relaxed. First of all, Mem is Machalis Asuras, meaning food. When you travel, and the good old, if you guys will know what the American Shlichus Bacham used to do 100 years ago, it wasn't 100 years ago, when they traveled, they would travel along with matzah and sardines, because you never knew where you're going to go, what you're going to go. It doesn't mean because you're a Helech Derech, all your standards that you keep at home, you break, chas v'shalom. Today's days, you're available to get everything, wherever, and even if it's not available, don't break any standards of kashrus. So that's the mem. Samach is to make sure to go to a sviva toiva, you go to only places where the surrounding you go is fit for your standards. Choose the right places to go. The ayin is arayis, is make sure it's sneas. And the yud is, what's the yud? You're guessing Yerushalayim, right? I wrote it down, I can't even write my own handwriting. But those are the things, even in halacha, if you look in Hilchas Chalav Akum, there's an Aruch HaShulchan over there. Aruch HaShulchan says that even though the halacha of Chalav Akum, you have a lot of ways around it, besides for the Kabbalah, there are a lot of ways around it, because today's days, there's no davar tamei be'edrei, there's no non-kosher animal, so you shouldn't really be worried. But there's many other reasons. And he said there were people, they used to be careful in Chalav Yisrael when they were at home, and when they traveled, they weren't so careful. And he knows of a businessman that traveled to France, and over there he didn't act the way he acted at home, and he came to a coffee shop and he took a cup of coffee, and he asks the coffee owner, what's so special about this coffee? Tastes good. He says, what do you mean? When we boil our coffee, we put in a bone of an animal. So there's a whole new situation you never thought about. Nevelis and treifus. So you can never know. Keep your standards wherever you go. I'm going to talk today about a short halacha that you might think it's obvious, and you never know that it might be din Shulchan Aruch. Now, what is the famous teaching of the Baal Shem Tov? I think we mentioned it yesterday. Kisira chamor seinacha, that when you see your enemy's donkey stuck, help him out. And the famous teaching of Baal Shem Tov, the donkey is your guf. Don't fight your guf, right? We all know that. You work with your guf. But the question I'm going to discuss today is, you're traveling and you're on the highway and you see somebody has a flat tire on the highway. Could you just make believe you don't see him and go weiter? Or there's a mitzvah, a chiyuv, obviously Yisrael, a nice person, but is there a real chiyuv d'oraisa not to be able to ignore him? So let's start with, in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, there is in Choshen Mishpat, the Alter Rebbe has one perek called Hilchas Oivrei Drachim V'Tzar Balachayim, the halacha of travelers, and be careful not to hurt anybody and Balachayim's feelings. And the Alter Rebbe talks about this halacha, and we're going to see if it's only relevant to an animal. And we always know, animals is hunkered down with luggage and it's kvetching. you have to help it out. Or does it even apply? A car is broken. So listen, let's just get to the base of this halacha and then we'll see where it applies. The Alter Rebbe says like this, Misha paga b'chavera b'derech, if you are traveling and you see your friend, and you see your friend is traveling, uvehem toy roivatzas tachas masa, and his animal is stuck, I don't know the proper English word, stuck under with a heavy load on it, no matter if it had a regular weight, or maybe the guy, it's stuck because the guy overloaded. There's a mitzvah to stop and help the animal, whatever it needs. Now, I use the word help the animal because that's going to be a big difference. Who are you helping? Are you helping the animal, or it's a rachmanas for the yid, and now it's a big nafkamina lalacha. Lifreik me'ala, to take off the load because it's stuck. V'zu mitzvah saseh, and that's a mitzvah saseh in the Torah, shenamar, because the Torah says, Ki sira chamor soinacha revetz tachas masoi. If you see your enemy's donkey stuck under, what's the right word? Not stuck, who? Crouching with a load on it. You azov tazov imoy. Okay, one thing. If you see another person in trouble, not in general, overload, help him. The mitzvah doesn't stop there, says the Alter Rebbe. Don't just ram off the boxes and zip away. Stand there with him, allow and reload, help him reload. Can you imagine you're running help him reload masa, whatever weight it's carrying, karoila. Shenamar, because the pasuk continues to say, like siras chamar achicha ishoyrei noiflim b'derech v'salam tamehem. Don't ignore it when you see your friend in trouble. Hakim takim imoy. This is another mitzvah saseh. So a minute ago was the mitzvah saseh azov tazov imoy. Now we have the mitzvah aseh acheres, another mitzvah saseh that you help him and you can't just leave. If you just ignored him and you didn't help him out, bitel mitzvah saseh, you ruined the opportunity to fulfill a mitzvah saseh. Va'avar aloy saseh. Can you imagine? So then the Alter Rebbe says, you loaded the animal and it fell down, you got to stay there again and again. However, then there's the discussion whether or not you could charge him for your time. You could charge him for your work. Or, so there's possibly a difference between p'rika, taking it off, or loading it. We're not going to get into that. So now, there's in Shiloh, first of all, the Aruch HaShulchan is one of the first ones that quotes this din, and then in Shulchan Aruch it talks about p'rika tina. But to make it more relevant to us, so the Aruch HaShulchan says like this, in Cheshem Mishpat Simarei Shayim Beis, Sif Ches. B'Medina Seinu, today's days in our country, that people are traveling, back then it wasn't with a car yet, people are traveling with agalis wagons, and you have a horse leading the wagon. If you see that a horse and buggy are sunk in mud, mechuyev asaya, you have to help him. In other words, it's not specifically a chamor and it's a horse and buggy. If your friend is in trouble, you have to help him. V'zeu mitzvah p'rika, and the mitzvah p'rika applies there too. And help him out, load the stuff up again for mitzvahs te'ina. Right? V'chein im nafal amasa me'al golif. If the weights fell, you have to v'zeu mitzvahs te'ina. V'chein im nishbar oifen ma'agola. If the reason why it collapsed is because a wheel fell off of the wagon, oy hayad sha'oifon misgalga by what we would call the the axle. If that's what's causing him in trouble, mechuyev l'sayeya u'l'sakim b'chol ma'ashafsher. You have to help him whatever it could. And remember, besides the mitzvah of actually helping, the mitzvah continues that you have to make sure he's good further on. You can't nivol, he can't run away. To make sure it's going well. Now, the last part, obviously I'm going to go a step further and say, how about a car? today's days we're not doing horse and buggy. Does this also apply about the car? So I'll tell you about the last part. The Prekah and Te'ina, we're going to discuss if it applies. But the last part, that you, even after you fix the guy's tire or you brought him gas or whatever it is, should you wait, follow him, like it says, the Rambam says you can't leave Nivo, that they say is for sure different between a car and a horse and buggy. Because a horse and buggy, you never know what happens. You still have to wait. But a car, once you get it going, once you change the tire, there's no reason to assume that anything wrong is happening weiter. So that last part, they say for sure you don't have to wait. So in Shuvas Chavas Yoyer, in Simek Kuf Tzadik Aleph, he asks a shaila, and he says that does this whole mitzvah of Prekah Te'ina apply only by an animal, or does it even apply by a person? Well, typically, you're going to say it's a kal v'chomer. Ma'adach, I have to worry about the feelings of an animal. For sure, I have to worry about the feelings of a person. So the Chavas Yoyer gives a swerve for cat. He said an animal, it was done to him, and he's in tsar, you have to help him. But perhaps there's no mitzvah pre-kantina by a person because Adam yesh le das, he can manage. A person can manage, a person will figure it out. Or you could say even from backwards forward, he got himself into this mess, let him get himself out of this mess, but a person somehow can manage. An animal, he needs the help. So the Chavas Yoyer actually says there is no mitzvah of pre-kantina, there is no mitzvah of pre-kantina on a person. Now, there's a big machlokes here, because it actually originates in another machlokes. Tsar balachayim. The concept of tsar balachayim, which might be hand in hand with the mitzvah of Prekah Te'ina. Is that a mitzvah that's only for an animal? Or tsar, if you see somebody going through a suffering, you have to help him. A person. Is this even by... And your logic will say, of course. Well, this is a big debate. The Rashba argues on this Chavas Yoyer. He says that there is the mitzvah of Prekah Te'ina, and there is the mitzvah of Tzar Balachayim by a person, even more than a behema, Takal V'chayim behema. The point is like this. The point is that why is there, it goes a step deeper. Why is there really a mitzvah to do Aziv Taziv Imay, the Prekah Te'ina? Some want to say the Prekah and Te'ina is not necessarily for the tsar of the animal. It's for the tsar of the person who's the owner is a Jew, and he can't get out of this. So you're doing everything to help him. So if the tsar balachayim in that situation is the person, what's the difference if it's a car or so? The issue of whether you see somebody with a flat tire, you have to help him, is a double issue. Is there Prekah and Te'ina by a person? And is there tsar balachayim by a person? So I'm going to go without and this halacha. A lot of people say there's a debate. So let me tell you what la halacha l'maisa is. The pasuk says kisira chamar tzanacha, and then the second pasuk says kisifga. One is when you see, and one is when you actually are there. So if the chiyuv applies, at what point does the chiyuv apply? So the Gemara says it applies riyah sheyesh by pgia. A riyah sheyesh by pgia means when you see it close enough that you could almost, in other words, if you see it from a mile away, if you know about it from a mile away, you're not mechuyev. Let's believe that the chiyuv does apply by a person and it does apply by a car. So then, at what point? Riyah sheyesh by pgia. How far is that? 150 meters. No, you? What's 150 meters?
What do you mean?
How far is it in feet?
450 feet, almost, a little bit more probably.
That's not even that far. That's a baseball stadium, a football stadium, right? Right? So if you believe the chiyuv exists, it's about let's say approximately 400 or 500 feet away. If you're close enough, you have to get involved. Number one. Number two, let me give you just pointers. Number two, where is number two? Of course, when you get Lepoil, it definitely does make, definitely is right, based on the Aruch HaShulchan, and based on the other opinions, that you should stop, and you have the chiyuv not only by a chamor seinacha, even by a car. In Sefer Klala Davadata, this, by the way, this was a long discussion. Rabbi Vadia Yosef quotes this, and he holds that most of the poskim hold that Tzar Balachayim applies by a human too, and if you see somebody that's stuck on the side of the road and he needs gas or he needs a flat tire or a change, you have to help him. Others say that the Sefer I just mentioned, he said that the Aruch HaShulchan was talking about to change the wheel is so to help the behema. But you can't compare, because a car has no feelings. Again, to see how it's intertwined, is the tzar for the person, the owner, or the tzar for the animal? A car has no feelings. For the animals, an animal has feelings, so you have to help it whatever you could. But if a car has no feelings, so those who don't think you have to help and change, you can say just go by because there is no tzar there. Anyways, the right thing is, most of the opinions do agree that, I can't say most of the opinions because I see a lot of opinions try to say, but the right thing is that if you see somebody on the side of the road, you're definitely doing a kind act. If you're mechuyev a mitzvah meseimer Torah of P'rika or Te'ina and watching him, all that's you're definitely going to get good reward for that.